Greetings, sentient being, and welcome back to another episode of Bunkworks. I'm Pluto, and you're about to learn about security, I hope. Today we're going to discuss how to secure yourself when you first start the game. So what I've done is I've gone ahead and fired up in single player mode, and I haven't installed any of my own software or anything. I'm just using the tools already available in the game when you start off. So fresh computer. I went ahead and cracked 2 Wi-Fi networks. I'm not going to go over that because it's like the first thing you learn how to do in a game. I'm going to assume you got past the tutorial. And anyway, these are the Wi-Fi networks that I cracked here. I got the passwords for them. And the reason why I bring it up is step 1. When you're doing stuff, around the game, wherever you go, when you open up the browser and you go somewhere, as soon as I clicked on that, there's a log in the system.log that pops up saying that I was there. So if another player is monitoring this site, they can download that log, look at it, see, oh, look who it is, and then try to come after me. So the smart thing to do is go ahead and connect to one Wi-Fi. So we're going to go ahead and connect to the one that's at 55%, and we're just going to leave this one right here. Okay, we're just going to leave it there for now. And we're going to go ahead and pop open our browser, and we don't have enough RAM. So I forgot about that. I gotta close some stuff. Hang on, close that. Let me search for that, and you'll see. Okay, good. So we can get 3 open. Now here's why we want to do that. Okay, so the first things you got to do when you start off in the game is you got to get a mail, and you got to get a bank. And in order to get a bank, you have to have a mail. So there are 2 websites that you are forced to visit when you start the game. So queue them up, get ready to go to them, but don't click on them yet. Okay? We're just ready to go. And when you get into the single player, it doesn't matter. You don't have to do this in single player. When you're in multiplayer is when you have to do this stuff. So this is what we're doing. But I'm showing you in single player because I'm not trying to get hacked myself, you know what I'm saying? Okay, so mail, bank. The third one you want is, you might think it's your hack shop. You might think you want one open for your hack shop, but it's not true. What you want is an internet proxy. So what you want to do is search for internet. Okay, and these are where you rent your proxy servers so that you don't expose, your home IP and all that. Okay, so you get these 3 ready. Now, you don't have any money right now, so you're not going to actually be able to rent a server yet. But what you're going to do is open up a page on one of those sites, just like we're going to open up a page on one of these and one of these. And as soon as we do all that, we're going to switch Wi-Fi. Because then the IP that we're on right now, this Wi-Fi right now has its own IP. That's the IP that's going to be on these websites. Okay, and then as soon as we connect, that's the IP that's logged, and then we switch IPs by switching to a new Wi-Fi, and then the player that snoops those logs won't be able to find us. So that's step 1, is hop around the Wi-Fis. So we have these 3 ready, and we're just keeping this one up so we don't have to do it again. We're going to have to make some money, and then we come back to this page. But, alright, so ready? Alright, so we're going to do it really, really fast. So, 1, 2, 3. It's faster in multiplayer. It's a little slow because my computer is slow and I'm in single player. But there we go. Okay, so we connect to the 3 sites. We switch Wi-Fi. So now that we're on the different one, and so now we can do our stuff. Now, if we click on anything on here, it's not going to leave the log. If we go to a different website, it will. But for right now, we can go around this page, do whatever we need to do. So the first thing we're going to do, email, and choose a very strong password. Okay, and bank. Once again, very strong password. Good. Okay. Now, you can't do anything here yet because these cost money, and we don't have any. But what we do want is this, config LAN, and it's free, so we download it. Okay, and this is another part of the security, so this is important with config LAN, and I will show you. At first, though, I'm going to close these so I can have more RAMs, and I'm going to remember, leave this one open. Leave this one open because we have to come back to this. Okay. All right. So we'll go ahead and open up config LAN. We don't have any rented networks, and in order to, use this, you have to have a rented network. So we're going to get there. The next step, of course, now that we have bank and mail, is to look at our mail. And now we have a website where we can go and get Hackshop stuff. So let's go ahead and open up a new browser. And you might notice that I'm not actually taking any precautions going to this site, because as long as my email doesn't get hacked, these are procedurally generated when you start. So this is unique to me. It was just generated. Another player's not going to randomly find this because there are 4 billion IPs to go through. But it's not impossible for another player to stumble across these. It's just very, very improbable. But once you're here, of course, you get your tools and you get your jobs. Okay? We're not going to cover that because this isn't part of it, but what we are going to cover is, of course, how to get there safely, and that is getting your bank and your mail and getting ready to rent a server so that you can make some money here and then go back and rent. Okay, so one of the first missions you'll be able to do, and you won't be able to do these forever because these credential needed missions are super easy, but the first one's going to pay you a good amount of money to get you started. So we're going to take one of them, okay, and we're going to check our mail. Let's go ahead and check our mail. I'm going to close that because I want to save on RAMs. So let's pop open our mail. They want the login credentials of this user. So using the tools that we have on hand, not going to install any third-party software or my own. Just going to use what we have. We use the whois command and we find out the email address of the administrator. Okay. Login issues. That's the one. Hi, I'm Rezik, and then you just send it right on to the admin, and they will kindly give you the information that you need. There it is. So you take that, and you respond, and the customer is satisfied, and there's been an income to our account. Great, we have $220. We rent a server. Done. Okay, we can close that. You can go back and get a home network if you want, but we're not going to bother with that right now. So now we have a server that we have rented. Let's go ahead and go back up there. There you go. Thank you for your purchase. We now own this machine. So now we have to secure this machine along with our home machine. So far, so good, right? We've managed to set ourselves up with a bank, mail, and proxy server, bank account, mail account, and a proxy server, and getting our hack shop and jobs and made a little bit of money, all without leaving a trace for another player to follow, and didn't have to use any third-party. This is exactly what we've got when you open up the game, with the exception of, obviously I coded this real quick, but that's just like graphic, so chill out. Alright, so that's step one, is getting yourself to the point where you're ready to go to step two, which is, now that you have some money and a proxy server, you can start really doing the thing. But before you go and start thinking you can just hack anything, the next step is file permissions. So let's go ahead and talk about that. The chmod command is going to be your number one tool to manage your file permissions. That's its purpose, is to manage the file permissions for all of your stuff. I don't really know why it's called chmod. I could probably Google that, but I'm not going to do that. It's a standard Unix command that you'll see across different types of Linux distributions, Unix distributions. It's pretty common. In fact, most players that build their own custom shell tools for this game, will call their own chmod. I, for whatever reason, didn't. I call my chmod command perms because it doesn't matter. Same thing. What you're doing here is you're telling it whether or not you want it to be recursive, and then you're telling it what sort of permissions settings for that file has, for a particular file or all files. So right here we've made a test file by making test.txt in the root directory, and then we're going to, of course, assign that file to a variable, and we're going to check the permissions. We're going to print out the permissions that it's at when it's created, and then we're going to modify them using chmod to remove read, write, and execute permissions. R is read, okay, W, right, and X is execute, okay. So we're going to remove all of those, that's what the minus is, from other. Typically that's like anyone that is not the owner of the file or in the group. So, guest or somebody, a different user, like just other people that aren't supposed to have it, taking that away, and then we're going to print it again. So we go ahead over here, and we see that when we ran it, it's right there, the initial permissions are readable and executable by other. As you can see up here, all of these are as well. And then once we ran the chmod command, that was removed. And now it's little dashes. You can see down here, little dashes. Now if we were to go ahead and use the regular chmod command, and use the recursive -r as the recursive option, and we were to remove all of that from anything that's inside of root. Chmod, recursive, others have no read, write, or execute permissions. That's what we're doing here, okay? We're modifying everything under root to get rid of this stuff right here, okay? Right there. So we're going to do that, okay? And then we look again, and you can see all of that has been removed, okay? So the order that you're going to have to remember, and actually here, I'll throw this up in a notepad so I don't mess up the code. Oh, of course I don't have enough room. Alright, so I'll just put it down here, I don't care. Okay, so the order, I'll make it a comment. Okay, so user is first. Then you have the group, and you can, that's this line right here, that's the second parameter, is the group, and you can assign groups to files. A file can only have one group, but a user can be assigned to many groups. Yeah, okay, so groups, Pluto, there we go. You can see Pluto is a member of the Pluto group and the root group. So anything that is in the root group I have access to, or Pluto has access to. Okay. O is other. Anything that's not these guys. If you're not the owner and you're not in the group, you're other, and then that's a different set of, file permissions. Okay. So if we wanted to change this to remove, say, remove this this middle set, let's go ahead and recompile, and then we'll run it again. There it is, test.txt. It took group permissions out of test.txt, which is what it was supposed to do. But that's not what I want to do. I wanted to do this. So group minus read, write, and execute from everything in root. Okay? And we look, and everything's gone. Oh, and also, since we recompiled B, it recompiled it with default permissions, and so the thing that we did where we got rid of that before, it's back. So we gotta remember that when we recompile stuff, it recompiles with default permissions. When we create a file, it comes out with default permissions. Okay? Where anybody can get a hold of that. So one of the things you kind of just get in a reflex of doing is removing those permissions from anything on your machine, so that nothing will have those permissions. Nothing gets in. Okay? And then you go ahead and do the same with literally everything. Such that nothing on your machine, oh, did I forget that one too? There we go. Okay, now everything on the machine is locked down. There are nothing but root, essentially. Only root. Like, not even, if someone else, here, let's, LA home, for instance. You see how guest owns the guest directory and Pluto owns the Pluto directory, but not even guest or Pluto could make changes to their own directory now. And that brings us to the next thing. You don't want a guest directory whatsoever. The first thing you do before you delete it is make sure it is no longer owned by anything except for root, and you want everything on your machine to do that. And that brings us to the chown command and the ch group command. And this is basically how you make sure that everything on your machine is owned by root. Okay, so first step, chown dash recursive. Recursive means do it to everything. And we're going to make everything owned by root, everything under the / directory on the machine. And we're going to do the same thing with groups. There. Now, if I look in home, you see that these are owned now by root. So now only root has access to anything on the machine. Now you might be thinking, well, this is not how you do it in Linux. And you're correct. This is Greyhack, a video game, and I'm teaching you this specifically because it's not intuitive. Okay, you might go into this thinking you're supposed to do things one way, and this is like, that'll get you hacked, okay, because people are expecting you to do that, and so that's how they're going to hack you. What you want is to lock down your machine such that only root, you, with the root password, has access to it. When using chmod to lock down your system, be sure not to brick yourself. You want to make sure you give yourself access to certain commands so that you can actually use your computer when you start up. And these are the commands. You want to make sure that you have access to sudo and terminal.exe. These are the critical ones. You also want to make sure that you have access to secure shell so that you can use the map, and chat so that you can use chat, and mail so that you can actually use the mail. Issues will arise if your user can't use these. Okay, so remember when we talked about root and groups? Well, Pluto is part of the root group, so the root group needs to be able to access those files. So let's go ahead and make those changes. Okay. All right. So chmod, and this is going to be, we're not going to do these recursives. We're going to do these individually. Group plus execute. Okay. Okay. So we can see we now have group executable access for secure shell and sudo, as well as the terminal and mail. And if this were multiplayer, chat.exe would be in there, but you can't join chat in single player. So anyway, these are necessary because if they were completely locked out when we start up the machine, we're logged in as a user. So if the user has access to these through the group, since we're in the root group, we can still access these. But if we didn't have these accessible to the group, we would not be able to get into them because we don't log in as root. We log in as a user. So make sure you don't brick your machine. This gets a lot of people, and a lot of people forget about it. So make sure that you remember not to brick yourself and have G+X for the following. Okay, chmod G+X for all of these. Okay, lock everything down. Everything is owned by root. Remove guest. You don't want it there. Get rid of it. Okay. And one more thing, you don't want password, and that's going to bring us to the next step. Guest is gone. Now we want to get rid of password, and that's simple. Just get rid of it. Okay. Whenever you create a new user. Okay, so let's go ahead and look in there. No password file. Whenever you create a new user or change your password, it will regenerate that file. So let me go ahead and show you. Password root Bob. Oh wait, password root, and new password is Bob. And you can see the password file is back. Okay, and then we do that. So get in the habit of making sure to remove that because you don't need it. It doesn't do you any good to have this on your system. It exists solely for you to get hacked. It is something that someone else can find, and if they can read the file, they can get your password. And remember that when that file is recreated, anyone can read it until you alter oh, actually, let me show you that. Okay, so I didn't even show you the password root. Okay, we change it. There we go. Now you can see that that file is recreated with guest readable permissions. We don't want that. So we want to get rid of that. Okay. But I need to change my password back. See? So you got to stay on top of that, or somebody will snoop your passwords. So get rid of that. Okay. The next thing that's going to get you are the cookies bank.txt and mail.txt. Whenever you open up your mail on your home computer, just mind you, it's your home computer. When you open up your mail on your home computer, a file will be created in your home directory. Config. Sorry. There it is. Okay, so in your home, I'm root right now, so my home directory, in my config folder, the mail.txt file is created. This has my hashed password, which is, and my email, which another player could use to hack into my email and, you know, snoop my email, which could compromise me in all sorts of ways. And, you know, this is an MD5 hash, so players definitely know how to break these. Always get rid of those. And there's also bank.txt as well. If you visit a bank website, I don't know if I... Alright, so when you go to a bank website and you go to log in, your information is automatically filled in, okay? And you can see, you know, where you signed up and all that stuff, and fees that have come out and whatnot. Every time you do that, when you log in, when you actually click log in, not just going there and it being filled in doesn't do anything, but when you click log in, create a file. So let's go ahead and see what that is. Oh, bank.txt. And it's, once again, it's your bank account and your hashed password. And that pops up every time you hit log in. So if I were to delete that, it's gone. I click login, it's back. So that's another thing that a player can use to rob you blind, is if they get a hold of your bank password and account, they can, of course, steal your money with the perform transaction. And then, you know, you can probably see where they send it to, but, you know, it's most likely going to be an NPC account that they send it to, and then another one to make sure that you can't follow the trail. So, you know, and then once they've got your bank account, you can't make any more money because they're just going to keep stealing your money because you can't change your bank password. It's one of those things in the game where if you get your bank hacked, you're expected to restart. It's a game over, so you can't change your password. Sad. All right. So that's the thing, is make sure to get rid of those files all the time. Okay, you always want to get rid of them. Okay, so now on to our proxy server. Remember that we rented one of those, and we want to be able to secure it as well, and we want to apply many of the same rules to the proxy server as we applied to our home server. However, a couple of things are going to be different. We're going to remove the entire home directory, for example, instead of just home guest, like we would on your home computer. On your main computer, you're going to remove home guest. On the proxy server, you're going to remove home entirely because you will not be using a user or guest on it at all. So you just get rid of it. Same thing, we're going to get rid of the password file, and then we're going to set everything to be owned by root. We're going to have root group for everything, and then we're removing read, write, and execute permissions from other, from group, and from the user, also known as the owner. And we're going to do all of this through a script. So we're going to use connect service to connect to our new proxy. There's its information right there. And once we get that shell, if it's correct, we're going to run our lockdown routine, and then we're going to start the terminal on our proxy. So we're going to pop on over to our proxy, and away we go. Okay, we're going to call it go. And let's see if it works. Go. There we go. As you can see, the IP changed here at the top. Shows that I am now running on a new machine. Running on this Stagalash. I don't even know what all that says. But let's go ahead and take a look. ls-la And oh yes, looks like we are all locked up. Everything is already nice and secure for us now that we've run this little routine there for us. And let's check etc. Yep, no password file in there, and you can see there's no home directory. So go ahead and take another look at that, copy it all down. Obviously you're going to replace this line with your own information. Oh yeah, and let me show you. See, it connected me. Oh, it looks like I'm renting a server in Texas. That's funny. But yeah, there's the code right there for you. Okay, so once you got that copied down, let's take a look at how we can alter this for home use. Okay, oh yeah, so just really quick, that's it. Your proxy server is done. You can now start attacking from there, upload your own tools, whatever. You still want to make sure you get good libraries and stuff like that, but that's not what we're covering today. Today we're covering permissions and secure practices. Libraries we'll do next. The last final thing, let's make a script that we can use to secure our home server whenever we want. Okay, so here's the last one for you. When you are on your home machine, specifically, only on your home machine, so basically here's how you know. If you can see that task, you're on your home machine. If you do not see that task, you are on not your home machine, okay? So a lot of folks will have different ways of making sure to not brick their machine when using their lockdown command. Mine, personally, like shell, uses this right here. If that command exists, it won't brick your machine. But we're not using shell today. We're using living off the land tools. We're making our own shit. Here is what you would do. You would do exactly what we said before. We're going to start at the root file system, and we're going to set everything to root and all the groups to root, and we're going to run them recursively. Okay, and then we're going to run chmod on that same file, and we're going to run the same commands minus rwx on others, on group, and on user, and the 1 just means it's all recursively. So this is, this command right here would be chmod-r for recursive, group rwx, and then the path would be that, because that's the file that we're working on. So this command would be corresponding to that line right there, and then just like that. And then we're going to go ahead, and once we've done that, because that's going to lock everything down, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go back and we're going to unlock certain things. We're going to unlock sudo, secure shell, terminal, and mail, and chat it if you're a multiplayer. But if you're not a multiplayer, you kind of don't need to do any of this anyway. But whatever. If you run this in single player and chat's not there, it'll crash unless I do it like this. So make sure you run this in multiplayer and you don't have to worry about it. But this will lock down all your stuff. One thing you do want to do after you lock everything down, or in addition to locking everything down, is you want to get rid of that password file and the other files. So let's go ahead and get rid of those real quick. Okay. If it's there, get rid of it, and then guest. See, we don't want the whole thing, we just want the guest directory. So home guest, right? And if guest, then delete it. There we go. Okay. So we get rid of the password file and the guest folder, and then we sally forth to do the rest. Set the permissions, lock everything down, and then we'll just save that one as C. Go ahead and run it. And our lockdown is complete. Everything's locked down, LSLA, except for in bin. We have sudo and secure shell, and in our Unix system resources bin folder, we have mail and terminal, so that we can still use our machine. And yeah, so you go ahead and you can copy this script down too and use it to secure your home machine, make adjustments for it, use the one before, however you're going to do it. You're going to have your own methods for securing things, but the things you got to remember are file permissions. Okay, that's the most important thing. Lock your machine down so that file permissions, only the people that you say can use it, use it. Then the next step beyond that to secure yourself, of course, is to mind where you're leaving your IP and to put stuff between, you and your targets, using proxies. So, my computer's here, my proxy's here, and then I would go and attack something out here. Maybe I'd have more proxies so they'd have a harder time getting through, that sort of thing. But make sure you secure your proxies as well, and make sure you remember the slight difference between securing your home machine and your proxy server. Okay? In the next episode after this, we're going to discuss libraries and how to get secure libraries, because basically, when you're going out and you're attacking vulnerabilities in libraries. So it stands to reason that to protect yourself, you try to use libraries that don't have vulnerabilities, right? Right. Okay, so we'll do that on the next one. For this one, though, go ahead and check out that code and